Hello folks, and welcome back to The Kind of Wild. I thought I'd bring this discussion indoors because I've got two very big items that I really didn't want to be lugging around outside and I've got limited time. So anyway, back to what this is about. This is an open discussion, kind of review, kind of not thing about one, the Fujifilm 150-600mm, this one, and two, the Fujifilm 500mm, this lens right here, XF, I should say. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I own the Fujifilm 150-600mm and I have been borrowing the 500mm from Fujifilm for the last couple of weeks. So I've had more extensive experience with the 150-600, limited with the 500, but there's some things I've noticed during that time in comparison with these two lenses, which I thought would be quite interesting to talk about. And in that time, I have shot with Fujifilm's XF telephoto range, which is the 150-600, 500, 200, my favorite, and the 100-400. And there's some key things that I've noticed between all of those lenses, in particular these two, that I thought would be really interesting to discuss. And this isn't a what's better kind of lens situation, because I think both of these lenses are fantastic in their own realms, but it's more just to discuss those differences and what might suit your particular needs in photography or videography. Depends what you do. But anyway, let's get discussing. Okay, so the first point I'm going to talk about is image quality, because I feel like this is quite a quick point, and I'm going to try and keep these sections relatively short because I don't want to bore you with my face and voice and topics. So we're going to start with image quality, and I think for both of these lenses, they're both fantastic with image quality, both for photography and videography. I've done extensive use, particularly on the 150-600, but with both to test those realms, and they've both done fine. I'll give you examples all over this whilst I'm talking away. And I thought this was an important point to touch upon because it's very disappointing when you purchase a lens and then the big sister comes out for £1,000 more, and then you feel like your quality of your lens is not the same. But this isn't the case. I've actually got some fantastic shots with the 150-600, some of my favorite shots ever, that I've got bears and other things like that. And I've also got some fantastic shots with gannets, seals with the 500mm. So I think for image quality, I didn't see a huge leap with the 500. That's just my opinion from what I shot in those 2 weeks. I could see it if I did other stuff, but for those 2 weeks, I didn't see a huge difference with quality, but that's not a bad thing. It just means they're both really good with their image quality and videography quality. So that's a plus for both. Okay, so this leads me on to the next point, the spicy topic of aperture. The aperture. Why is the aperture important? Because I am, I'll put this out there now, a prime snob. Love a wide aperture, I love a prime lens. I don't know what it is, why it is. I do know why it is, it's because they're beautiful. So yes, aperture is a very important topic for me, and that is why I adore the 200mm, because you have that f-stop 2, I believe, yes. And with the 500mm, you have an f-stop 5.6, which is brilliant. And on the 150-600, you have an f-stop of 5.6 at 150 and f-stop 8 when you go all the way. So it isn't a constant aperture of 5.6 all the way through. It changes, gets narrower as the focal range extends. So that is something to bear in mind when you're doing your photography, in particular low light. But I will add a caveat to this, or an extra point, that I have shot in low light with the 150-600. That was with my bear photography. I was in winter in Slovenia in a forest. Can't get low light enough than that. And it still did great. So it's not like it's a problem at that f-stop 5.6 to 8. But equally, I feel like if you're going to do a lot of wildlife photography, if you're somewhere in the UK where it does get a bit darker and gloomier sometimes, I would have loved it if that was a constant aperture, or at least less, not to 8. But that's just my opinion. So this is where the 500 wins, in my opinion, for the aperture, because you have that flexibility of that 5.6 at 500mm, which is fantastic. It means you don't have to have that stress or worry or that higher ISO, because you can compensate for a wider aperture, which is brilliant. And it also has that lovely dreamy ethereal compression as well. To be fair, so does the 150-600, but you can just see it more with wider apertures. 200 wins out still for me, but the 500 does a fantastic job of that. And I think that aperture really does help. But that being said, I really wish Fuji had actually made the 500 with an even wider aperture, maybe in the 3s or the 4s. It didn't have to be at 2, because that would have been really expensive. But I feel like if you're going to make something that's a prime, go all the way and make it wider, in my opinion. So I would have liked it if they gave that option for even wider. It's just my thoughts. So if you're someone that wants that confidence that you can shoot in very dark lit places, or you're going for low light subjects, or you just want that lovely, beautiful, soft background, the winner is, in my opinion, the 200mm. I love that lens, it's beautiful. I don't have that here right now, and I'll talk about that at the end. But the next one would be the 500. I shot with this when I was on Bass Rock, and I actually didn't want to take it off. Same with the Farne Islands, because it just gives it that softness, that different feel, that lovely style where your subject pops because the background is compressed and soft. And you can get that on the 150-600, don't get me wrong, but you got it there straight away on the 500. So for me, the win for the aperture would be the 500. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just I prefer wide apertures. Yeah. Okay, so this brings me on to the build and ease of use of these two lenses. And why is that important? It's hugely important because there is a massive difference between the 150-600 and the 500. You can just see it there, and I'll do more shots of this so you can see the difference. They're hugely different. So the 500mm weighs around 1,335 grams, all compact into that. Perfect. The 150-600mm on the other hand weighs around 300 grams more at 1,605 grams, which is a big difference. And it wouldn't be so bad if this was collapsible. And I think this was the biggest fault in some ways I think Fuji did for itself. And I don't want to critique it too much because I understand why they did it. And what I mean by this is that they provided the 150-600 in this closed off cylinder. So as you go up and down that focal length, that distance, the 150-600, there's no change. This is a fixed cylinder, which I think is fantastic for balance. That's great. It's really steady. And I think that does compensate and helps with that. But I think for a lens that's 150-600, I personally would have liked it collapsible, because that to me isn't a lens you're going to carry around fixed. If you're starting at 150-600, that's going to be something you want in your bag and you want to take out when you feel like it, like the 100-400. It's portable, it should be, because it's that whole range. That's the whole point of a zoom lens, is to be portable for different scenarios, different situations. And I think having that fixed cylinder just closed off that kind of realm of being able to just put it in your bag. It's not a problem, because it would have collapsed down to maybe like there. Maybe, I could be wrong. It might need this whole space, who knows? But my point is, it would have been nice if it could have been collapsible. Yes, it's fantastic if you're going away on safari or somewhere dusty and dirty. Everything is contained, and that is fantastic about that. It's weather sealed, it's contained, no dust is going to ruin your lens. That is fantastic, but I think for a changing zoom, I would have liked it collapsible. And that's where I find the 500mm is fantastic, because if you actually look at it, it is relatively small. I say small in lens world, but it is. It's very easy in the hand. I can carry it like this. When I'm shooting, it's not too heavy. Yes, after a while, you might get an achy shoulder. You're like this constantly, which I was, because I'm doing filming and photography, so you have to be very still and steady. But it's portable, and when it's portable, I'm more likely to carry it around with me everywhere. And I think that's the only downfall with the 150-600. I've had this for a few years now, or maybe a year, I don't know, a bit longer than a year. And I just don't find it, like I don't want to pick it up as much because it isn't as portable in my camera bag against all my other equipment. I also have a drone, other things like this. It's a very specific scenario, but I wish it was just more portable. That being said, both of them are solid, they're sturdy, they're weather sealed. They both come with a tripod foot mount that you can both detach off of them, which I think is a fantastic feature. You can rotate them horizontally or portrait just from that part as well, which is great, your little access there. And they both have the buttons on the outside to change to your presets and your image stabilization on the 500, but not on the 150-600. So they are really good, they're very smooth. They're both built well. So this isn't a complaint that they're not built well. And I think they're both made in Japan. It's just, yeah, both made in Japan, which is nice as well. So they are quality items. It's just that practicality of it. It's like the 500 wins for the portability, but the 150-600 wins because you've got more usability with it. So I feel like they need to merge them the opposite way around and then that would be really good. But anyway, they're both robust, they're both sturdy, both have the capability for the teleconverter as well, and both solid in this lovely metallic-y, pearlescent, silvery, white, opaly colour and come with a lens hood. That one's not attached right now. But yeah, so I think portability wise, the 500 is great because it is that bit smaller, but whether you're able to use that as much because it's 500, that's the difficulty. That's the dilemma with photography nowadays. Let's move on. Okay, so the next points we're going to discuss are image stabilization and autofocus. As I've already discussed, I've only shot with the 500mm for 2 weeks. I don't feel like it's a comprehensive time to really test out a bit of equipment to tell you this is great for X, Y, and Z, because I haven't shot every single day with it, every single subject. It doesn't work like that. But I have shot a lot with the 150-600, so I can kind of compare it. But what I did notice on the 500 was the stabilization is beautiful. So I was shooting the video footage to begin with without the stabilization button set, which is just on the actual lens itself. I had it off because sometimes that can cause blurring, so I've been told. And I saw my videos, it was a bit juddery like this, and I've got an example to show you because I've got the moment where I turned it on and off, but it was juddering. And then I put on the stabilization and it just held. And I was like, oh, that is really good, because the 150-600 is still fantastic for stabilization. It's a big step up from the 100-400. But what I do notice is if I'm using this and being really, really still, you'll still get that sudden jerk of movement. It will see it, because obviously on a telephoto, everything is magnified. You've got this tiny little postage stamp that you're trying to look through, and it's just like, everything is just exaggeration. So because of that, when you get those little jerk movements, it can look like it's not stable. When it is stabilized, it's just yourself as well. And I've shot with both of them now handheld. That's what I do most of the time, because it's, you know, it's spur in the moment, you're just trying to get pictures, especially when you're hanging off a boat and trying to get a picture of a seal. I can't have a gimbal set up and everything. So yeah, they're both handheld, and with handheld for filming, I'll give you examples. Both of them are great. I just felt the 500 was just that little bit more. But again, that might just be because of the length. Look at the difference. They're huge. So that length makes a difference to stability. Although you can have that extra bit to hold on to and like brace yourself, I do find the 500 a bit easier to keep stable, is what I'm saying. But the stabilization is still really good. I've got examples to show you of both handheld. Of birds when I was photographing a photography or videography of gannets and other wildlife, just to give you an idea, and they both did great. And it's the same for the autofocus as well. I shot with both of these on the XH2s. I haven't tried the 500 with anything else. I do apologize, that's all I've got at the minute. And it did great. The stabilization, autofocus for both the XH2s, especially the autofocus, I don't have any problems with it. I know people go on about autofocus and all that jazz. The key thing is you have to adapt your autofocus settings to your subject. Simple as that. Go into your custom settings, adjust it, tame it, tailor it, tinker it to your situation, because a bird isn't the same as a bear, for example. It has to be different. So with that in mind, I think the autofocus is fantastic for both of them. Not had a problem. And that's the same for filming as well. And I'll give you examples of what I mean, where it's held in focus. So yes, that's just the summary of stability and autofocus. I still think the 500 is that little bit better with the stability, but the rest of it, they're both on par. Yeah. Okay, that leads me on to my final point, which is filming with both the 150-600 and 500. And again, as I've just said before, the stability, I think just the 500 makes filming a bit easier, especially if you're handheld, which is great. Being more compact helps as well. But in terms of the quality, both of them perform outstanding on the filming quality. I've got loads of examples to show you. I don't know if I necessarily notice a difference. You'll have to let me know your opinion on this. I personally don't feel like there is a difference in quality. Could be wrong. You let me know what you think, but I feel like they're quite on par. If not, maybe the filming on the 500 is a little bit more refined, but I find them still both very high quality and good standard. So that's just my perspective on it anyway. Yeah. Okay, so that is just a summary of my thoughts that I've been gathering for a while now about the 150 in particular and the 500mm. I think it's quite good to have these open discussions and thoughts about equipment and we're using it and its limitations or areas where we can see improvement. It's important. And I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found it useful. And like I said, it isn't criticizing either of these lenses. I think they both perform fantastically in different ways. And that is the annoying thing about photography equipment. There's always that limit to a lens where we're like, it's so good, but I just wish, oh, it had that or that. And it's just never ending with photography. And that's why we always end up with billions of items. But I am someone who just likes to keep 3 key lenses. I'll be honest, I don't like a lot of equipment. I feel like I'll waste it and I won't use it. So for me and that perspective, I think I would be angling towards either the 500mm or if I could, if money was not an object, the 200mm. And there's nothing wrong with the 150-600. It's not that. It's just I'm not someone who goes out all the time specifically just for wildlife photography. I do landscape, self-portrait, my dog, travel. I do a bit of everything. And I already have a very heavy, busy camera bag. It weighs, as I've said, over like 10 kilos. So it's a lot for me then to carry this lens around. And because of that, I haven't been using it as much. And I don't like to have things I don't use. I don't see the point of it. And it's great to use it recently because I've taken it on a trip to do wildlife photography. But then it goes back in the cupboard again. And I don't like that. I don't like wasting my items. So I think for me, I'd rather just get something smaller, sacrifice the reach, fine. If it's the 200mm, you can get the teleconverter. If it's a 500, I'll just have to sacrifice it with what I've got. But for me, I just would use it more, and that's the thing. like to use things properly. So I really do love this lens, 150-600. I do love the 500 as well. I think they're both brilliant, and I hope you can see from my examples what you can achieve with these lenses depending on what your style of photography is or what you're going for. If you're someone that doesn't necessarily have anything else in your camera bag and is going out specifically for wildlife photography, 150-600 is fantastic because you've got that full range. You want to get those wider shots of those birds' wings that you can see, not just the close-up stuff. And that's what's great about having a zoom telephoto, is that you have that opportunity to have the drawback look or the cut in close, and this does fantastic. So I'm not putting this lens down because it's been there for me through many good times. And if you're someone who knows maybe a set distance of what you like with your photography, the wildlife's a set distance away, or it's something that's maybe not necessarily too close or too far, but it's just that right mount, then the 500 will be fine. I took this both to the Bass Rock and to the Farne Islands, and I was able to get puff-in photos. I just had to go a bit further back. The same with the Gannets, I just had to focus on stuff a little bit further away because I didn't always want that cut-in image. I like the stuff that's a bit wider as well. But equally, you can do what I did on Bass Rock and complement this with a wider lens. I had the 16-55mm 2 version coupled with this, and the two of them together worked really well. So it just depends what you're after. There's no right or wrong. I think the key thing is you can get fantastic images with both these lenses and the 200. It just depends what you're doing and your personal preference and your style. And obviously I'm aware as well about the 200mm. It is so big and heavy. So this is what I'm saying about the 500 is a great lens. I did say it'd be a quick discussion, and it's probably been over like 20 minutes, so I'm sorry. But I think it's an important one to discuss because they are both expensive items. Lenses are getting more and more expensive, and I think it's really important to discuss how you can use them so you don't just spend a fortune on something that you're not going to use or that's not going to fit your style of photography and be disappointed, because then you'll lose money on it, which we don't want. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps you decide anyway. Or if you're just intrigued by these lenses, I hope it just fills that intrigueness. Intrigueness, is that a word? I don't know, I just made it up. Anyway, on that note, I will get going, but thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. Drop your comments below about your thoughts on these two lenses and the 200 if you like, and the 100-400. We're open, this is an open discussion for everyone. And I look forward to reading them. But anyway, stay you. Stay awesome, stay wild, and stay free. And until next time, you wonderful people, goodbye for now. Bye-bye. I've managed to face my microphone the right way up because it was facing the other way for some reason. I hope you can hear me. 605 grams. I hope I said 1-3, yeah. Something in my hand, I think it's cactus spine where I was repotting it. It's kind of sore. I'll try and ignore it, but it's tempting. Anyway, the 150-600mm on the other hand weighs around, well, that was 150-600, 500, 200, 150, no, not 150. So on that note, let's get talking.
Mount Laurel high fives for miles in spring.